Hey everyone, how are you? This is Daniel Tremello here on the podcast Outliers, here with Breaking Muscle, and my amazing guest today is David Essel, talking about his new book, Focus. It's incredible.
Excellent.
Hey,
Man.
so this is, you got the book. All right.
Yeah, man. I have to tell you, I read a lot of personal development stuff. I'm really into reading everything. This book's incredible. It really, really is. Tell me about David Essel. Tell me how you kind of how you got started and kind of your path to where you are now, and I guess what makes you you, you know?
Yeah. You know, Daniel, here's the funniest thing in the world. Almost everything that I've gotten involved with was never planned, never, ever planned. You know, I started out in 1980 in the world of fitness and, was one of the top exercise video dudes in the 80s. You know, I was in Shape magazine with Jane Fonda and and Kathy Smith and Denise Austin and all these people back then that were very famous in the world of fitness. And I got involved with doing exercise videos, and then I started traveling the world 40 weeks a year as a speaker. In the beginning, wow. It was, to fitness conferences all over the world. And then, and I got a master's degree in sports psychology. So I would do counseling with athletes. I played basketball at Syracuse. So basketball and tennis were my two big loves. And I pretty much limited myself to working with athletes. And then after that, it was just, like the rest of my life has not been anything I have any schooling for, any education for. Wow. I burned out in 1989 in the world of fitness. And at the time I was burning out, I got this gig on Lifetime television. You're familiar with Lifetime?
Yep.
Yeah, Lifetime. It's for women, So I was called Mr. Motivation. And then I got Fox TV in New York, got me on as a segment reporter. I started writing books by accident. I started, counseling people outside of sports psychology totally by accident.
Okay.
I tripped into the world of radio, and I hosted a show for 28 years. I mean, it's just wild. But there's a constant, even though it seems sporadic and kind of insane and crazy, how I jumped from one career to another, the whole constant was always helping people to maximize their potential. That was it. Right. And, as you read in the book from 1980 to 1996, I was a huge fan of positive thinking, man.
I love reading about that. And it even says even on the title here for people that are going to be purchasing this book, which I mean, beyond strongly recommend. I've already recommended it to about 20 people. It literally crosses out law of attraction.
Yeah.
And, from reading Think and Grow Rich and auto-suggestion and all these things that are discussed in this kind of the life coaching or you say personal development world, what made you come to that conclusion?
Yeah. I mean, in the book, we tell the story of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's, the founder of Transcendental Meditation. And in 1996, he selected my radio show as the only media outlet to celebrate 40 years of Transcendental Meditation, which blew our mind. I mean, I have been a practitioner of TM since 1988. And in 1996, we get this call saying that you are the only media outlet for his 40th anniversary. But Daniel, here's the thing. And of course, I was really super excited. I was jacked, of all the Wayne Dyers and the Deepak Chopras and the Mark Victor Hansen and Meatloaf and Kenny Loggins and all these people I'd interviewed. All of a sudden I get Maharishi and he's the one that blew my mind. During a break in the interview, he says to me, "You've mentioned several times about the power of affirmation and you believe whatever you believe you can achieve." And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Maharishi, this is me, And he says, "Of your most frequently affirmations that you frequently use the most, how many of them are your reality?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "How many of them have actually come true?" And Daniel, the answer was none.
Really?
Yeah. The answer was absolutely none. In 1996, I had been waking up every day saying, I am a millionaire, and I made a lot of money, never made $1 million in a year, and then I was saying, I am sober, and I was a raging alcoholic, doing the work I'm doing, loving the work I'm doing. I never drank during my work, but come 8 o'clock at night until midnight, 365 days a year, I was drinking, so he shattered. And of course, I didn't tell him the truth.
No.
when he asked me the question. I said everything's great. 3 weeks later, I came out of a binge, and I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I said, you know what, your affirmations are bullshit, and you've got to find a new way. And I had to get really humble. That was the turning point that made me believe that those statements, whatever you believe you can achieve, are nonsense. I mean, Daniel, you read the book. I mean, I have very strong opinions about this crap, and of all these mega superstars I've interviewed, Susie Orman, in my previous book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, that was also a #1 bestseller, I tell the interview I had with Susie Orman, and she had talked about how in her life she had lost every penny to her name. That she had an office manager that embezzled every penny when she was on vacation. And she talked about what it took for her to come back and be successful. And it wasn't positive thinking, like that. She never even said anything about having a great attitude. She talked about having to forgive the person that embezzled her money in order for her to start to break even, and then how hard she had to work to reclaim her financial success. So, as I've interviewed all these people, none of them, Daniel, regardless of the secret and the law of attraction, not one person who's super successful, Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul, oh my God, their story is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
None of them had said, well, I'll tell you what I did, David. I used an affirmation beginning with the word I am, and the next day I woke up and I was a millionaire.
Right.
The next day I woke up and I lost, or 3 weeks later, we had lost 300 pounds. Like that stuff doesn't happen. And so I started getting a little agitated, Daniel, a number of years ago, that, these books were coming out and people were making money off of individuals suffering.
Right.
And, and one of the key phrases that, all of these people in the law of attraction and all this, would say in their seminars was, you've got to believe and keep coming back. You've got to believe and keep coming back. And it's almost sort of like charlatan-like, and then, I won't mention names because I'm not into doing that. I'll mention names of successful people, but not people that, but, there's a guy that was a big famous law of attraction teacher, still is to this day. And I think it was 2 years ago he came out, and when I was challenging the law of attraction big time, he came out with a new book that was saying, we missed something in the law of attraction, and we didn't put vibration into your affirmations.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? And now all of a sudden, when you use vibration and passion and energy, now the checks will come in the mail if they haven't yet, Yeah. It's sad.
There's a part of your story relating when you met with Mahesh, right?
Yeah.
Where my jaw dropped when I read it, and I want you to if you want to elaborate that, is when you were at a conference down in Florida and you have coffee with somebody. I'm telling you right now, I got chills reading that story because it just hit me hard. Can you kind of tell a little bit about, from your perspective versus kind of reading the book? I want to hear out of your mouth,
Daniel, it was I'm so glad it moved you, because it moves me right now. I'm feeling chills about ready to tell it. Right. And it was, the number of weeks after I had interviewed Maharishi, and I was on stage at this massive conference in Orlando. I come off stage, there's a line of people asking questions, and then at the very end, there's this tiny little tot, this little girl, she was probably 35, 40. No, she had to be older than that, maybe in her 50s. And she said, hey, can I steal 15, 20 minutes of your time? And I said, yeah, what's going on? She said, I just flew in from Fairfield, Iowa, and Maharishi wants me to ask you a question. And I said, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi? She goes, yeah. I said, he sent you here? She said, oh, yeah, he told me to fly down, ask you one question, and fly right back.
No way.
So we sit down to talk, Daniel. And so I said, tell me about you first, because I'm not getting this connection here, like why? And she said, well, I've been with Maharishi for 36 years of his 40 years. I've been with him through it all. And she said, what he wants to know is this: of everything you guys talked about during your interview with him, what do you remember? And I kind of felt it was a candid camera moment in a way, Daniel, because, if someone would have said, you talked to Deepak 4 weeks ago, what do you remember? And I go, oh, the seven spiritual laws of success, and they said, when you talked to Wayne 6 months ago, what'd you remember? Oh, there's a spiritual solution for every problem. I could rattle off stuff. When she asked me that question with Maharishi, I was like dumbfounded. I said, I don't remember hardly anything. And she said, you must remember something. I said, no, it's so weird, man. I don't remember a thing from the interview. It's like my mind went blank. And she said, David, think harder. I said, okay. I said, he had a child. The only thing I can remember is he had a childlike joy. Like every question I asked, he would giggle and laugh. And I said, I had a blast with him, but I don't remember much. And she paused, and then she said, I'm going to tell you something that you may not understand, but you will down the road.
Wow.
And I said, what's that? And she said, you remember his joy because you have no joy. And I looked at her and I said, you don't know me. You've met me 20 minutes ago. You have no idea. Listen. And then, Daniel, I got very defensive, and I said, I'm a number one best-selling author. I live on the beach. I drive this. I do radio, blah, 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 right? Travel all over the world. Like, I am living in total joy. And she said, no, actually, you're not. And, the reason why is that in 36 years of sitting with Maharishi, whenever a group of us are at his feet, sometimes he'll speak for 8-10 hours in a row. We all get up and we'll go and talk later, and someone will say, man, when he talked about X, I was blown away. And the rest of us say, we didn't even remember talking about that. But when we talked about it, and then she went on with the story saying, whatever you remember is what's missing.
Mm.
And so then it was several weeks after that I woke up after the 3-day binge and realized that I was so out of it. The beliefs that were given to me by well-meaning gurus, whatever you believe you can achieve. And now the words, of course, that the law of attraction put out there is whatever you send out into the universe must respond in kind. It's such crap.
Right.
If that happens, it's called a miracle. If it's happened, it's called a miracle. If you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to meet my soulmate today, and the girl delivering Domino's pizza knocks you off of your feet,
hey,
and you have to be with her, that's called a freaking miracle.
Right. Wow.
So, and then after that happened, when I woke up that day, just totally blitzed, hungover.
You went on a binge, and I remember reading about this, and here's this, you're pricing your life, you're a coach for 16 years, seemingly successful on the outside, very successful. I was living on the beach, driving a nice car, whatever, right? And I found out that you had an addiction, and I was like, that's what made me this really hit me hard. Wow, you felt like you were up here, maybe from what you were showing the public, but you were she was right, wasn't she?
Oh God, she was so right. And it takes that kind of a smack in the ass. It takes that for most of us. Most of us, we will not change until we are drilled to the ground, man. And so it took that, and then I woke up, and then from that experience, Daniel, everything changed. I started looking at, why did I avoid? Why have I procrastinated? Why have I hid behind affirmations? And, we didn't have vision boards back then, in 1996. But we did. I mean, I remember as a kid, my room being plastered with pictures of basketball players because I was such a freak, right?
Yep.
And so I had like in 1996, all around my beach house, I had phrases. I am a multimillionaire. I am 6% body fat. I am with, my soulmate of my life, this gorgeous girl. And then I'd have some Playboy model picture up there, all that. So we didn't have like it on a vision board. My whole freaking house was covered. The walls were covered, so, and I had to come to the reality that all of that was an illusion.
Wow.
It's an illusion. It keeps us trapped in denial. It keeps us trapped in doing what we're doing. And when we say this in the book, when you have and I'm not anti-positive thinking, when you have a positive affirmation that you use with emotions, and it's realistic or unrealistic, it doesn't matter. There's a cascade of chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, crashing through the brain, making you feel invincible right in that moment. And that's where denial sits. because who doesn't want to feel that, right? So we say the words, we get the sensation, we get the belief that we're on top of the world, and then we carry on doing nothing. But then when we restate that affirmation that afternoon, that evening, the next day, we feel like we've really got it together. And that's the trap of the world of positive thinking as we have been taught it. You know, hey, one of my favorite books in the world is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in our other book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, I tell the story that I read that book once a year, usually right around the first of the year. I pull it out and read the whole damn thing again, right? Because I love it so much.
It is. It's amazing.
Not one time, Daniel, in that book, does he ever say you can think and grow rich.
Never thought about that. You're absolutely right.
He never says it. He gives stories of people that struggled to become millionaires. I mean, every story is people overcoming their own mountain, right? But he never sits there and says, now, if you think this way, you become rich. He was the master at marketing, plus he was the master at motivation. But the book title is what everyone wants. I want to think and grow rich, and that's what The Secret did.
Yes, that's correct. And then that goes back to The Secret, because The Secret really, what a marketing ploy that was.
Unbelievable. And that's what the law of attraction does. Now, the big difference between Napoleon Hill and The Secret and the law of attraction is that Napoleon Hill used a marketing ploy to get you to buy the book, but then he talked reality.
Yeah.
The law of attraction and The Secret never even went to reality. And they're still not. You know, in the new book, if you remember in chapter 1 in Focus, I'm finishing up the book, where I'm actually finishing up during the Hurricane Irma, and I'm on my phone because we had no internet, and I get this thing posted on Facebook by this woman saying that if you want to learn how to earn $100,000 in 3 days, take my law of attraction money-making course. And I just about puked, Daniel. And wow. I wrote about it in the book Focus, and then another week later, while I'm definitely finishing the book, I get an email from this law of attraction teacher saying, if you're tired of eating healthy and exercising and not losing weight, take our law of attraction course on weight loss. You'll never have to change your diet or exercise again.
That's bullshit.
It is. It's absolute crap, So what we've done in these books now is I've become this, champion of the underdog, champion of reality, saying, hey, listen, I love Oprah, and I don't know what her opinion is of The Secret and the law of attraction today. When it came out, she loved that crap, right? But I love Oprah. But if she's still promoting that and still believes in it, I'm really sorry to hear that, And when you talk about celebrities, and the power that they have, Jenny McCarthy, the story I tell about Jenny in the book Focus.
Yeah.
She thought for sure The Secret and the law of attraction were valid.
I mean, I can tell you this, right? In the business world and the world and law of attraction and The Secret are huge. And it's huge. And funny that you say, because I look, vision board, I have affirmations. I can show you a list of affirmations I have read, right? In the first person, like all these things I own. And so I'm a subject of law of attraction. I can tell you, and I can also tell you, there are parts of that have worked for me. I've looked back and said, you know what? There's parts of it, but you're absolutely right. Never once, did I, were they the affirmation that, and it's funny because I'm like, you don't need to read, and I realized I don't need to read affirmations to be successful, but there's also parts where of the athletic background I have where it's like, dude, action, go take action, get immersed, get, exposure immediately, like stop waiting for these things to happen. That's why I really resonate a lot with what you're saying here. And the title just right away pulled me in because there's a lot of people out there that are still focused on the law of attraction. My vibrations, my energy, and that stuff it is real. I mean, it's not, however, exactly what you're saying, a vision board is not going to make you a millionaire. It's not going to put a Rolls Royce keys in your hand just because you think it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, one of the most beautiful experiences that I had regarding the law of attraction and The Secret is with Jenny McCarthy, because, she was a huge fan of it. She believed it. She talks about it on her Sirius XM show for years. And
Right.
I think it's probably 3 years ago when I came on with the book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life. You know, she brought me on and said, hey, I'm going to give you 3 to 4 minutes, man. You know, like, David, I think your process, your thought process is very unique and very different. I happen to really like all this positive thinking stuff, but I'll tell you what, you have my audience for 3 minutes. If you in 3 minutes can convince me that I'm wrong in what I've been telling people, I will be the first to champion you. And Daniel, you know, I get 3 minutes and there's a part of me going, oh my God, I may never be back on Jenny's show again. Yeah. You know, and I love her. And this was the start of a great friendship with her. I nailed it in 3 minutes. And at the end of it, she turned to her audience, as we write about in the book, and said, oh my Lord, I was incorrect. David Essel is right. He's the new leader of the positive thinking movement. You need to get his book and see what he's talking about, you know. And that was the first of many, many celebrities now that have looked at this work and said, holy cow.
Right.
You know, now I mentioned earlier, you know, I love positive thinking. The first hour of every day, I am looking at my affirmations. I'm doing my journaling. You know, I'm writing about what's going well and what's challenging me. I'm reading, you know, the best books in the world. Some books like Napoleon Hill that I've read 1,000 times before. And the first hour, you know, of every day is immersed in my mental attitude. And then after that, I don't even think about it, Daniel. I just go do the damn work. You know?
Yeah, right. You have to do the work. One of the things too that pulled me in here is the subconscious and the conscious mind. And I wanted to ask you too, you started doing, for some of our people that don't know what TM is, I've gotten familiar with it just recently, I say within the last 6 months. And could you, I mean, kind of explain, okay, so for people out there to say, you know, I really do want what David's talking about, and, you know, I really do want this better life, and I know, you know, I don't have an understanding of how to get there, of how you think TM got, well, maybe from my perspective, but I'll give you kind of your, can really help people's subconscious, and then change their then when in general change their conscious thinking to make better choices. Do you think that's from TM? Or do you think it's kind of getting a smack in the face and saying, hey, look, you're fat, start working out? I mean, obviously that some people might relate to that, but I want to ask you about how TM has changed that perspective just the last, I think you started in 1996, you started doing TM, correct?
No, 1988.
Oh, 88. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 1988. And then in 1996, I interviewed the founder of TM, Maharishi.
That's when you interviewed.
But okay, so Transcendental Meditation, you know, the most powerful aspect to me of being a TMer for as long as I have is that it quiets the mind.
Okay.
The mind is filled with all kinds of notions, some positive, but for the average human being, most of our mind is filled with limitation. You know, I hate being late. I always eat this food I shouldn't. I drink too much. I'm not making the money I want to make. God, I wish my relationship was like my next door neighbors, even though you don't know what their relationship is really like. I wish I had a brand new car. Why do I have to work this job I hate so much? Why does my partner always give me such shit? Why don't my kids do what I say? You know, what I just said is the average person's brain. Now, there are some people, Daniel, that their brain operates a little differently, and they have, usually via their action, created a mindset of peace and hope and goodwill and service and positivity and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the majority of people. And how do we know that? 70% of the United States population is overweight or obese. We know there's not good stuff going through their brains. Okay, so 70% of the population right away, right off the top. When we look at the percentage of population that exercises 4 to 5 times a week, it's between 10 and 12%. And that hasn't changed since 1970. 10 to 12% of people exercise 3 to 4 times a week. So we already know that there's a huge percentage of population struggling just with their weight, right? Which also means they're probably struggling with their health, which also means they're probably struggling with self-esteem, which also means they're probably struggling with self-confidence. So what TM does, and what I believe its greatest power is that in Buddhism, we call it the 10,000 monkeys in a cell. Transcendental meditation over time quiets the 10,000 monkeys in the cell. And one of the most powerful attributes of TM is that they tell you, don't struggle with your thoughts when you're doing meditation. So a thought comes up about I'm hungry, you want to observe the thought, go back to your mantra. The thought comes up, I can't be late to this meeting tonight. You want to observe the thought, but not fight it. In other words, the world of positive thinking has it all wrong. In the world of positive thinking, they say when you have a negative thought, quickly cover it up with an affirmation.
You're right.
Well, all that does is deepen that negative thought or fear or anxiety or insecurity. It doesn't do anything with it, you know. A friend of mine, do you know Rich Gaspari, the bodybuilder? Have you ever heard of him?
If I see a picture, I probably know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was back with Arnold in the days, and he was super short, and super short guys have a hard time winning major bodybuilding titles.
Sure.
And he was blowing the world away. And he came out with a Gaspari nutrition, and he's got nutrition supplements all over the world and everything. But if you said to Rich, tell me all the positive mind tools that you use in order to become a highly ranked bodybuilder, I mean, the number of mind tools he uses compared to what he did physically to his body is minuscule, Daniel.
Right.
It's like, those guys, are they going to spend some time thinking positively and visualizing themselves in the mirror? Of course.
Right.
but especially back then in the 80s, they were in the gym 8-10 hours a day, it was their profession. So TM, the main benefit to me is that it quiets the mind so that the reality of consciousness, which is really quite pure, has a chance to come up through all the nonsense, fears, insecurities, worries, comes up into surface consciousness. So when people say that we're born a blank slate, I really believe we are. And from 0 to 18, and if you want to talk about the subconscious mind, this is one of my expertises, and this is what literally changed my world and all my counseling clients and my coaching clients, is that we put about 80% of my work one-on-one into the difference between the conscious and subconscious and how to separate it. But once a pattern is set, so I'll tell you with TM. I was introduced to TM in 1974, but it took me another 14 years to do it, because when I walked into a room and saw people in Birkenstocks and white clothes with their eyes closed meditating in 1974, I go, you're a cult. You're freaks, man.
Right, yeah. Especially if it was so new, right, at the time.
Yeah. So, and then finally over time, I would say to people, if I'm going to reduce my stress, I'm going for a run. And of course, that helps. Then in 1988, this girl that was a friend of mine, and she said to me, David, you are such a creative thinker and you're way outside the box and you do all these things, but you're always stressed. You can't just relax. Why don't you try this Transcendental Meditation? So I went through a 3-day certification program. And during the time, the teachers kept saying the same thing. Don't fight your thoughts. Allow them to come up during your meditation process and go away. Acknowledge them. Go, oh, yeah, I'm hungry. Let it go. Go back to repeating your mantra. Oh, yeah, that's right. I've got to go shopping tonight. Let it go. So it was the coolest introduction of not covering up with being Mr. Positive.
Right.
And that was the greatest, benefit to me. Now, it took me about a year of practicing TM on a daily basis before I could do it anywhere at any time. And now, heck, years ago, I got braces. And when you get braces, you have to have these molds done in your mouth,
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes the orthodontist has to leave the mold in for a while and you're going to gag, it goes to the back of your throat. And they put it in, and immediately, Daniel, I went to TM, and my orthodontist came out several minutes later, and he goes, right. Are you alive? Yeah. And he snapped me back out, and I looked and I nodded, and he goes, you're the first person that relaxed through this process, and it was due to TM that I was able to quiet the monkeys. And it was in an uncomfortable situation, but I was able to quiet them and go to the space. Daniel, I'll tell you what, and you'll find this if you haven't already with TM. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, last night I did TM, and I do it for 15 to 20 minutes, whatever. Last night was about a 30-minute TM meditation, and I came out feeling high. I came out feeling so relaxed and you're in an altered state.
Yeah.
And I slowly came back to reality, and I relished that intense relaxation, which is, to me now, that's my high.
Yeah.
So I think there's a million benefits, but I look at TM as a tool. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as an answer. I don't look at anything as an answer anymore, Daniel. I used to.
Sure.
You know, I used to
Yeah.
believe that now I believe that, like your affirmation, as long as you don't get hung up and think your affirmation is going to bring something into your life, your affirmation is a great tool. TM is a great tool. Going to the gym is a great tool.
Right.
Jotting down everything you spend on a daily basis to monitor your expenses via wants or needs is a great tool. Going to a seminar is a great tool. As long as you don't think the seminar is going to change your habits, it's a great tool.
Correct.
So we have all these tools, but the most powerful tool at all that we talk about in all of our books is the tool that no one wants to face, and this is this. It's the tool of doing on a daily basis the action step you don't want to do. That is the king of all tools. When the last Summer Olympics hit and Usain Bolt had won, his 7 billionth gold medal in track, he was interviewed and he was in this really upbeat mood. And the commentator came and said, "Hey, you're dancing around the stadium." He goes, "Oh, this is just such joy. This is such joy." And the guy says to him, outside of dancing and having all these people excited and your outrageous personality, like, what's your key to success? And for the first time, I think Usain Bolt actually stopped and thought, because he's usually just snap, judgment, machine gun comments, and he said, "That's a great question." He said, "Let me tell you, when I'm here, this is a party." He goes, "Anytime I go to an event to race, it's just a party. It's just fun. But
Right.
the key to my success," he said, "is doing every day what my coach wants me to do that I hate." And he said, "I'm not a morning person. And every day my coach makes me get up 6 days a week. I hate it. I don't like the gym. I don't like working out with weights. And every afternoon I have to work out with weights. I don't like doing 3-a-days. And every day we do 3-a-days. I hate my training practice. But the end result of my training practice are all these gold medals and my chance to dance with you right now."
Right. I love that. I won a gold medal in 2011, a part of an international American football team. So we're actually in Austria. And so, I have gotten a lot of autographs, whatever. I mean, a small group of people. When I was living in Europe, I was a professional athlete. And it's the exact same thing that we talk about is the days it was cold and rainy, I purposely go to the field because I knew nobody else would be going on those days. And I knew it's the mental edge that you give yourself. It's not even, are people going to be working as hard as you? Yes. I think they're at the highest levels they are. But what separates, some of the great from the excellent to the unstoppable is just literally they believe they deserve more. Because they've done some of that work. They're saying, he's like, no one else is going to be running sprints 3 days a week but me. And you talk about that in your book is also, which I loved. There's 2 questions I want to ask you, major ones, before they leave my thought. The first one is the one thing theory, because I'm telling you, I read this, it changed my life. I will tell you that. So for me, if I have a spreadsheet of goals, right, and they're from business to personal to fitness to charity to contribution. I literally every year I have 6 different lists and they go downward. And I say, I want to do all these things. And here's what you're laughing, right? Because you're like, you idiot. But that's what I got. And I was laughing at that because I'm doing this and I'm like, none of these have come true the way, at the extent of which I placed the goal at the beginning of the year. And I said, this is going to be the goal. And here's my intention. But talk about that one, because I'm telling you right now, I shared that with my organization, my team, I have a business, and because it changed my life immediately. It really did.
Wow.
But just if you to explain, because I'm telling you, I was just like, I'm an idiot. And here's something, and because in the past, my previous success in sports, it was exactly that. I was obsessed with one thing for a long period of time until it happened. Obsessed. I mean, that was all I wanted to do. And you talk about a 90-day, basically one thing obsession. But I want you, when you're coaching your clients and you're helping people, how explain that process of what we've been taught versus
Yeah.
what you're like, no, it's this, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Daniel, you know, when I look back at my athletic career, I had a coach in ninth grade who I hated, Larry Miller. And anytime you have someone you hate, it usually means they're pretty damn good, okay, when it comes to coaching. And I hated this guy. And, you know, he turned me into a defensive animal. Now, in basketball, I wanted to be an offensive star, right? I wanted to be the top scorer of the team, you know, all that kind of crap, right? You understand?
Yeah. Of course.
And so he took me and maybe he gave me one compliment in 2 years, right? But he made me into this freaking animal defensively.
Right.
And my junior year, I transferred to another school, and the coach that I transferred to had seen me play the year before in a summer league. And when I called him and said, I want to transfer, like the guy flipped out. He's going, oh my God, we want you here, you know? And I went in and you know, I still, even when I played at Syracuse University, there's a good friend of mine, Cookie Man Snyder. Cookie Man and I still contact each other via Facebook. And he said to me about 6 months ago, he sent me a message saying, you know, in basketball practice at Syracuse University, I hated it when you guarded me. I hated it. You are so much better than everyone else defensively. Now, so the one thing theory says is that here's the definition. At any given time in life, there's only one goal to go after. Now, for everyone listening, watching right now, please write this down. Grab the book, of course, but write this down. There's only one goal to go after. It's the one you've denied, delayed, procrastinated the most. It's the one you don't want to do. It's the one you want to hire someone to do. It's the one you wish you had naturally gifted for. It's the one you've avoided. It might be addiction, Daniel. It might be free spending money that's getting you in trouble. It might be being codependent in a relationship and not standing up and sticking up for yourself. You know, and there's millions of things. It may be you hate the gym and you're going to wait till you lose 30 pounds before you go into the gym. You know, that mindset.
Before I start working out, that type of thing. Yeah.
What's that? What'd you say?
I'm getting in shape before I start working out.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or for a lot of guys, it's they don't do leg work.
Yeah, of course.
You know, freaking A, they're in there and their biceps are 18 inches around, you know, and they've got these little chicken legs. Because, so how are you going to produce the most amazing body in the world? It's hit your legs, dude. Do what you don't want to do, you know? And can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger winning his competition without doing legs, right? So what we say is that, you know, and then once you master it, so what happened to me in ninth grade is that I became a defensive animal. And then once I mastered that, I became, you know, a very skilled jump shooter. And then after I mastered that, you know, I became one of the top free throw shooters in the history of Syracuse University basketball.
Wow.
So I took each individual piece, Daniel, and I worked on it until I mastered it. And that's what the one thing theory is. It's like you take one piece of your business and, you know, and in business or when we have a course called Financial Freedom Now. And it always shocks people because we start out with belief systems. You know, everyone who takes my course wants to make $1 million a year, right? I mean, they want to be financially free. So they think it's income. It's not income. Income is way down the list. Step number one is look at your beliefs and what patterns you're bringing from childhood or, you know, either that are positive or negative into your adulthood, right? So number one is beliefs. Number two is expenses. You know, like this is the key. And I'll tell you the book that blew my mind, that opened me up about true financial freedom, is a book by Thomas Stanley called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
Do you know that book?
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah, you know, and like he talked about these people having their shoes resold versus buying brand new, you know, instead of buying another pair of $800, $900 shoes, get your freaking shoes resold. Those $400, $600, $800 or $200 shoes, whatever you buy, those things will last 20 freaking years, man. You know, and so, and so we go beliefs first. No one wants to talk about beliefs in their family, childhood. And I go, I don't care. We're going to do the one thing theory, you know. Then we're going to jump into expenses. Oh, I don't want to work and I have to write down everything I write. And was it a want or a need? That's great. It's called the one thing theory. You're going to do what you don't want to do. And so we can apply this, Daniel, in any area of life. What about your relationships? You know, like, so when I work with couples that are struggling, what's the one thing that they don't want to do is own their part of the struggle.
Right. Of course not.
You know, and that would be the one thing that I would work with, you know, a couple or an individual on, is that What part? Because if your husband's an alcoholic and you're staying with him, the problem is your codependency, not his alcoholism.
Right.
You know, so the one thing theory came out of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi blowing my mind that positive thinking and affirmations weren't it, number one. Number two, admitting that I had no joy. You know, like that was the next thing, is that I had to admit after working with that girl, I had no joy. I don't care how many financial trappings I had no joy. And then the third thing was the work. And that was to say, what's the one area of life I've avoided, denied, delayed, procrastinated, working on? It was my freaking sobriety, right? And then once I attacked that, then I kept saying, okay, what's my next one thing? And from 1996 to today, I always have something that I'd like to procrastinate it on. You know, even though I've been teaching this stuff forever and writing about it, until you die, you're always going to have something that you don't want to do that you need to take care of.
Sure, of course. Man, that's powerful.
Yeah. And Daniel, let me mention this too about the one thing theory. One of the most incredible outcomes of doing what you'd rather not do until you master it is an outrageous increase in self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-motivation. When you walk into the fire and do what you'd rather not do, even if you're just going to do it in the book, we say the Jumpstart program is 90 days. If you were to not eat sugar for 90 days, if you were to not drink for 90 days, what's that?
I'm the guy around, because I run a financial firm and I'm also in the fitness, right? So I have, I'm the guy telling people to stop eating sugar. And I read this and I was like, this is like my brother here. Dude, I'm telling you, like when it comes to the mental capacity it actually takes to stop eating sugar is way harder than people think. Way harder. Because they're thinking, oh, and then they start looking at labels, really, how much sugar is everything. I tell people, I'll tell them, let's drop you under 25 grams of sugar a day to start. Because they will literally start having shakes and I mean, look, it's like coming off addiction.
Yeah.
It's like coming off addiction.
Well,
and,
yeah, go ahead.
It blows my mind, the negative side effects of sugar, that it is in our food. It's everywhere. You have to really consciously avoid it. You really do.
You know, food is a drug, and the top foods that are drugs are salt, sugar, white flour, and fat. Okay, so and that's called convenience food, fast food restaurants. It's called the convenience store. It's, you know, I mean, those are the most powerful drugs. Sugar, in a study done in around 1999, sugar hits the reward center of the brain almost as quickly as cocaine. It's delayed by about 45 seconds. So if you snort Coke, it hits it instantly. When you eat a high sugar, one Oreo, for God's sake, within about 45 seconds. Now, here's the important part of this little story. When you're using a drug that hits the pleasure center of the brain as quickly and as densely as sugar does, the reason that we crave it is because it numbs emotions, Daniel. So if you're feeling, and now I'm going to mention, sugar between 0 and 25 usually has a hyper effect on the brain. So from 0 to 25, when you're a child, a teen, etc., the brain is not fully developed physiologically. When sugar goes to the reward center, it usually is a hyper response. It's an energetic response.
Right.
After 25, and some people it's after 35 and 40, but as we age, when we use sugar numbs emotions as powerful as alcohol. And what that means is when you're sitting at night in front of the TV and you're bored out of your mind and you don't want to feel bored, eat some sugar. You won't feel boredom in about 60 seconds. If you're feeling anxious and you want to relax at night, eat some sugar. It's going to calm down the anxiety short term, okay? If in the afternoon, if you're bored, if you want to procrastinate, oh, go get some cookies or something, man. Go to the vending machine. That'll take some time. You can procrastinate. And then when you eat the sugar, it's going to numb that whole aspect of anxiety that you're trying to get away from. You're going to feel calmer short term. So it's a freaking drug. And when people go off withdrawals of sugar, just what you said a minute ago, Daniel, they get irritable. Oh my God, it's like they turn into this little monster if they can't get their sugar. And right away, you know it is an addiction.
Right. You're absolutely right. That's it's interesting that you say that too. With it numbs your emotions short term.
short term. And that's why so many people crave it at night. You know, they come home from work, they're anxious, they're not getting along with their kids, their partner. They, you know, they don't want this, they don't want that, and everything. And sugar takes it away, man. It really does.
It's so funny you say that. It takes them out of their element for at least a short period. They can enjoy something. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's an altered reality. You know, like anything that takes us away from feeling anxiety, nervousness, anger, resentment at our partner, our kids, whatever takes us away brings us to an altered reality. Sugar does the same thing alcohol does. As a matter of fact, when most of us get sober, and I'm a great example, we will crave sugar and we will eat copious amounts of sugar in order to get the same numbing effect on the pleasure center of the brain that alcohol gave us.
Wow.
And in the world of recovery, it's called a cross addiction. Some people, when they quit drinking, will start smoking or start smoking more. Why? Nicotine is the most powerful anti-anxiety drug in the world that you can get over the counter. One cigarette is like having a Xanax. It goes to the pleasure center of the brain and it takes us to an altered reality. Why is smoking cigarettes so hard to get away from? Because the brain is used to avoiding the reality of boredom, anxiety. And so we know we can instantaneously hit that pleasure center with nicotine, cocaine, Valium, food, sugar, whatever it might be, Daniel.
Wow. And it's what the title focus of your book. I mean, it just everything we're talking about, but it's such a perfect title for, and I think one of the things I really loved about this, reading it, is how you teach people how to live an intentional life, starting with that morning routine and how to focus on one thing and have it. And that's, I'm a product of this. I'll tell you that right now. When I finished playing sports, I was completely lost. I was back home with my teddy bear I grew up with in my parents' house after winning a gold medal. And I was lost. I was very lost, very confused. I didn't know what made me good. What was one of the most challenging things, I think, for people who are listening to this that are already successful in something is knowing what makes them successful so they can transfer it to something else. You know, and it's a powerful tool to learn. And self-awareness, I think, just title this book of focus and self-awareness, it struck me immediately. I'm the type of person that obviously I know the power of this. So let's say for you, when you're taking someone from seemingly A to Z, because let's say you have a client who's 300 pounds, unhappy, broke, divorced, I mean, maybe have addiction issues. Let's say they're at one end of the spectrum. And then they see where you are and they say, I want to be where I want, you know, or they see the ideal picture of themselves. What's that process like? What's that? I mean, how do you ease, you know, I'm going to say ease into, how do you get someone who it is so far away from there, you know, how do you, I mean, and how do you do that? I mean, how do they do that? You know, how can they get themselves to the person they want to be?
Yeah, well, Daniel, in the book, we outline the exact process to follow of how to choose the one area of life to go after. But let me tell you a story, because stories are really cool ways to sort of, you know, share how this program really works. 12 weeks ago, a woman came into me and she was an absolute mess. I mean, you know, shaking, sitting on the couch, you know, just looking at me, trying to tell her story. She was in the middle of a divorce that she had several really important key things that she had to do to get out of. 20-year marriage, emotionally abusive husband, outrageously controlling, insecure. At 4:30, she worked in the medical world. At 4:30 every day, she had to text him on the dot to say she was leaving the office. At 4:45, she had to text him again and say where she was. At 5 o'clock, so she went through this for 20 years, okay? And she was a nervous wreck. Now she's going to be a single mom with 4 kids, almost full custody. And she's making crap money, and she's always made crap money. So now they're living separately. She's dying on the vine financially. She has no idea how she's going to pay me to do this work, but she just knows she has to. Yep. So I said to her, there's only one thing that matters right now. There's only one thing. Like, throw everything out the window, do the paperwork, finalize the divorce. You know, see, Daniel, even when people know they need a divorce, when there's certain things they have to do, paperwork, financials, all that kind of stuff, they can get handcuffed, right? It's like They know it's the best thing, but they're still scared, you know, and they've got 4 kids to take care of and blah, blah, blah. So within a couple weeks, she finalized the divorce. Now, she had been putting off finalizing it for over 9 months. So this gave her some confidence. Like, you know, when she came in, I go, dude, look at what you did in a couple weeks that you couldn't do in 9 months, right? And of course, her response is the same of all responses. Yeah, I got that done, but look at what's in front of me. I go, forget about it. We're going to attack everything one at a time. So the next thing is that she was in an 8-month relationship. And for all of your viewers watching who are separated or divorced, I always say to people, do not freaking date for a year. Okay. Forget about it. So be alone. Learn how learn how to deal with your emotions. So she came in and she was telling me how this guy was just like her former husband to be and blah, blah, blah. So she nailed it, right? She cut it off, ended it completely. Next thing, she's talking about how she makes no money, how her boss has taken advantage of her for 5 years. That's the next one thing. So then I blew her mind. And I said, Daniel, hey, listen, you are being such a rock star, but now pedal hits the metal. You got to quit. You're going to have to quit your job.
Wow.
And the only reason I had the balls to tell her this, a single mom with 4 kids, is because of the abuse her boss had put her through for 5 years, identical to her husband. So I had her do this exercise, Daniel. I had her write about, now in the medical field, she was hired to do one position. Over the course of 3 years, he had let go of 3 employees and given her all of their responsibilities and no increase in pay. So he was, excuse my words, but he was a dick, okay? And she was a codependent woman who was used to being abused and taken advantage of by men. So she just kept saying yes. So I had her do this exercise where I had her write down every role she played in this medical business, every responsibility she had, and it ended up being 20 pages long, Daniel. When she saw her value, when she saw her equivalency with the work that she was doing was $100,000 a year job. And I said that to her. I go, you're being paid $36,000 a year. And you bring to this business $100,000 of employee wages, right? Mm-hmm. Not only that, Daniel, listen to this. Over the past 4 years, this doctor's business had been bringing in more than $300,000 extra every year. So she was an equivalent to $1.5 million of increased revenue.
Yep.
Right? I mean, and when she saw it on paper, because we do everything in writing, like it gave her courage. And then the next exercise was this. Of all the doctors in town that you respect and you know and you like, is there any that you'd like to work for? And immediately, and now I want to tell you how fast this works, how cool this works, Daniel. This is a Thursday at 6 o'clock at night. Right. She said, yes, Dr. So-and-so. I said, leave this office, text him, set up a meeting for Saturday. Right. She sets up this meeting. She goes in. She pitches him on working for him. He comes back and he says, you're amazing. And she shows him all the paperwork that she had done proving her value. He said, I can pay you $70,000 a year. And she said, you know what, doctor, that's not enough. Now, here's a woman that 8 weeks before couldn't stand up to her husband in court.
Right.
And here's the greatest news. He said, you're right. You're worth more. I'll pay you more.
Wow. That is powerful.
Yep. So the one thing theory says, what am I avoiding? What don't I want to take care of? You know, and we attack it.
Get it done.
And then we go to the next one. What's the next one? And Daniel, the process is so powerful. And the reason why in the book we say focus for just 90 days, because if anyone does what we recommend for 90 days, Daniel, if you had mentioned sugar, if they quit sugar or quit drinking, or if they went to the gym for 90 days straight, forget it. They're going to be a different person.
Right. 100%. Wow. David, I love it. I love it. I want to do another show with you. Awesome. I most certainly do. Just I want to kind of wrap up a little bit and just closing thoughts. I thought that story that's profound. Makes me do a lot of thinking. And that's one thing I will tell you is the way you write for people that are going to be buying your book. And I hope everyone does. I think they're stupid for not. I'll be totally real. You're an idiot if you don't buy this book.
Thank
is
you.
is you disappear. People is you disappear very quickly, but your words stay. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
And they leave a long lasting impression on anyone who wants to pick up this book and take a couple weeks. I have markets. I literally have marks everywhere of things. And here's what I love about it is you give people action steps every chapter. It's not just read this, go do affirmations, think positive. That's obviously not what you believe in, but there's major action steps and a lot of self reflection. And I just love it, and I really appreciate it. I guess for you, what's next for you? We'll kind of finish with that. What's kind of the next plan? This book is out.
Yeah.
What's next for you in your career?
Well, this is our 10th book, Daniel, and I have no background in journalism, broadcast journalism, literature, English, and if someone would have told me 38 years ago when I began this career that I would have 10 books, 3 of them #1 bestsellers, I would have said you're crazy, but the next thing for me, well, writing is an absolute passion. We have more books that I'm writing right now that are already in the pipeline, and so I'm going to keep writing. My one-on-one work as a counselor, and this is what I like to offer to all of your viewers. But I'm going to make this very specific. If you're serious about getting to the next level, I don't want tire kickers, and that's not saying that tire kickers are bad people. You're not bad people, but if you're not serious about changing, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to take advantage of what I'm going to offer next. If you're serious about changing your mind, your body, relationships, career, money, whatever it is, I want to offer, Daniel, to all of your listeners and your viewers, a free 20-minute jumpstart phone counseling session.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
in
awesome.
20 minutes, look at how much we covered, in an hour or whatever we're doing, a half hour, whatever it is. In 20 minutes, one-on-one, I can help people so quickly get to the core to find their one thing. Once you find it, then it's going to be up to you to do the work, and we can talk about action steps on this call. But just go to talkdavid.com. The website is talkdavid.com. Daniel showed you the book, but I'm going to, let's see, where is it? It's Focus, Slay Your Goals. My friend Jenny McCarthy wrote this killer introduction to the book. Grab it at Amazon and email us at talkdavid.com, and my team will get back to you, and they'll set up the time that you and I will talk. So I'd like to offer that. Without focus, people fall victim to multitasking, which is not going to get you anywhere. We fall victim to procrastination, which is one of the greatest killers of dreams in the world. We fall victim to projecting that the reason that we're in this financial situation, this weight, this health, this relationship is genetics, other people, the economy, the presidency, whatever. And when we focus, we start to look at the world differently, like I did in 1996. And I said, oh my God, not only do I have no joy, I am the creator of my lack of joy. It is me. And in 90% of the cases, Daniel, we are the biggest block, but you're not going to think yourself to the next level. You're going to act yourself to the next level. And that's where our expertise is. We go back, and when I talk about The Secret and the Law of Attraction, listen, there's some really motivating, inspiring stories there. There's some stuff to get you really hyped. But you got to do a lot more than just get excited. And that's where our expertise is. And that's where we can help you the most.
I love it. Great pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Daniel. You too. And anytime you want me back, just let TJ know, and we 100%. Will rock it. I have a blast with you too, because, and one thing, let me share this with you.
Yeah.
With all that you have accomplished, athletics and business, for you to be so complimentary to the book and to myself is something that I take very seriously, and I really appreciate, Daniel.
Oh, thank you so much. It's from the heart. It's real. Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to learning more from you. You'll be getting an email from me too. So,
hey, let's talk. Let's do some work on the phone. I would love it.
I'd love for that. That'd be great.
Okay, good.
Right, David, have a wonderful day.
Okay, Daniel, you too.
Excellent. Talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Great show. We just finished David. David Essel was incredible. You can get his new book on Amazon. It's going to be at the top of the bestsellers list already, but it's on Amazon. It's called Focus, Slay Your Goals by David Essel. Definitely go ahead and grab yourself a copy. It's amazing.